done it now.
Oops.
There we go. She doesn't want to come up. You can.
It goes to the hand.
That thing's on.
Yeah, you have to unmute.
I can unmute the L, but I gotta,
There you go.
we're unmuted.
I want mine audio. Mine video to be off.
That's as far as it'll go. I want the L directly in front of me.
Okay, go ahead and wave.
Okay. Oh, we're
We're
on.
on, we're
I think
live.
we're on. Testing. Good afternoon sorry we're late, 3 minutes. Don't like to be late, ever. Welcome to the Select Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 15th. Happy Tax Day, everybody. 7:05 PM. A couple of announcements that aren't on here, but we have the couple of announcements that everybody should be aware of. Chief Barrett was able to obtain 3 different, what did he get, Karen? 3 different grants, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Very exciting. And someday we're going to get these on our website, aren't we, Karen?
When I change positions,
Okay.
yes.
So he got $3,000 for the second round of the firefighter safety equipment, which is awesome. He then got a little over $11,000 in state fiscal year 2025 funding for the firefighter safety equipment grant program. And then he received $4,700 for the student awareness of fire education, that's the SAFE program, and another $2,200 for the senior SAFE program in fiscal year '25, which is crazy good. So that's one announcement. I have another announcement. It's a little sadder than that one. Bill Brown passed away on April 7th. He was an active member of the COA downstairs here. I had the pleasure of meeting him when I first got on the board. He was one of the kindest, gentlest men I've ever had the pleasure to meet. He was very dedicated to the seniors at the senior center. It was kind of his whole life at the end. He would run around in the morning to the area stores and pick up bread and pastries for the early arrivals to the senior center downstairs. He really put their needs above his, everything about him. We didn't have a meeting last night, so I couldn't tell you, but it was on my Facebook. The services were this morning in Dedham, and I went with Anne Marie and Lisa downstairs. It was a big contingent from the COA, which was very nice. And that's that.
He was a
Sad.
board member.
He will be missed. He was a board member down there for the last 7 years, you told me? And he just was a great guy. So I wanted to remember him. Other than that, we have another, we received a letter from James Arena DeRosa. As you know, he's our state rep, great guy. And he just let us know that he filed new legislation this session to address the funding and budgetary issues that every town is having, but particularly us. And he filed new legislation that is asking the OSD, the Operational Services Division, to increase the annual tuition for private special education programs to 2.5%, and requiring any additional costs beyond that to be covered by the state. So is this addressing the 16% that they went up and only capping it to 2.5%?
Yes.
That's my understanding, right? So that's why a lot of the schools are in trouble, because the state allowed the special education services to go up. What was it, Mike?
It was 14% one year, and I think it was 4 the next.
Okay.
So
he-
18 over 2 years.
Right. And the state is not commensurate with their funding for us, so he's trying to cap it to 2.5%. And additionally, okay, and then he says it's, there's another, he's also part of the bill is to increase the special education circuit breaker reimbursement to 90% and reduce the approved cost threshold to $37,000. Do you understand that better than me?
Yeah, basically, it's based on the average cost to educate a student in your district. There's a certain formula that once it gets above a certain threshold, the state will reimburse a certain percentage. So he wants to bring that current cap number, which I think is somewhere in the 40s now, down to 37, and then to be able to make that other adjustment so that, you know, the towns will be better up to, you said 90%, I believe.
Yep,
So the
90%.
towns will be better compensated or reimbursed, so it
Okay.
won't be as hard a financial hit
Okay.
for communities that sometimes, in short periods of time, have to add a lot of students with special needs into the district, and the cost can be substantial.
Right, including us.
Yeah.
So he's doing what he can do, and we can only hope that it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Other than that, we do have a placeholder for the school, and where were we when we, at the Finance Committee meeting?
Finance Committee, yeah.
At the Finance Committee meeting, the last Wednesday night, Craig and I attended, and the Tri-County, the same people that were here in December, I think, came and updated what's going on with Tri-County. So Craig's going to tell us what's going on with Tri-County.
Okay, we have our assessment in the budget this year for students. We have 45 students attending, which is 11 more than last year. So that drives up two components of the budget, the total cost to send kids for tuition, and then on top of that, the construction cost. This is also the first year of the large construction costs hitting, and it'll continue for the next 20, 25. Waiting for the final bonding number to come out, but they haven't announced that yet. So next year, in addition to the tuition for the students, which is absorbed in our normal operating budget, there's $348,000 of construction costs that we're going to have to pay. We've been fortunate, we have free cash to cover that. In addition to that, we've also have $300,000 of additional free cash we put into a reserve fund just set aside for Tri-County, which will give us $300,000 for next year's cost, which I assume will be close to $348,000 again. And if you remember last year, we put $400,000 into stabilization for Tri-County, same reasoning. We didn't have the reserve fund at that point, but so we've been setting aside money every chance we get. So we can avoid having it impact budgets, cut into other services, or need an override to pay for it. And next year, we should have $2.5 million of free cash because it's based on the prior year's estimates. So hopefully we can set aside a little of that for future years. So we're trying to build up as many years as we can on the hopes that that one of our state legislatures or somebody can make a change to this whole process to give us additional funding. They're also pushing a bill that I'm not sure if it'll be retroactive, but it would pay 80% as the starting point for a VOTEC school instead of 53%. Right now, the VOTEC school is 53%. And then after you make your cuts to get it down to, you know, this site work is capped, classrooms are capped. It gets down to about a 30-something% reimbursement. So it starts at 53, comes down to 30. By comparison, ours is also capped at about 53%, but it gets down to the low 40s, not the low 30s, because we have less cost associated with it usually than a VOTEC. So we think we have a plan in place for the next several years to avoid having to ask for an override for Tri-County. I'm not saying it'll never happen, but we think we can get through certainly 26 this year, 27 next year, most likely 28, and hopefully 29. Have I gone in diminishing level of optimism there? Okay, so we'll see where we can get. Currently, as I said, we have 45 children enrolled. Last year we had 34. Our biggest year is 2021 when they had 70, and that's an abnormally high year. That's 10 higher than any prior year. Most other years were in the, I'd say, just trying to do it quickly, I think.
COVID.
Well, no, 21
It
was,
was 21 COVID year?
yeah, but they had a lot of kids, 70
Right,
kids.
anyway.
So I think we're in the mid-40s usually, so this is about the normal year for it, if I had to average it.
And that's a class number, not a year.
That's the entire that's the entire
Right. That's good.
freshman, sophomore, junior,
Right.
seniors. So there's
That's 4
40,
years, the
Yeah.
45 number, not per year.
so call it 11 kids per year, you know. So they also went over some other things about how children are selected, what our maximum theoretical cap is. Some towns like, who is it? Medfield are not sending anywhere near what's allotted for them, so those spots are allocated out to towns that are sending more. So that's all interesting. It was an interesting presentation. It was, the big news is the construction costs. Any other thing that I missed?
No, but they're delayed a little. Did they mention they were delayed, I thought? No.
Maybe a little bit.
They had a,
Would they have?
a wetlands issue.
Oh,
They,
yeah, spotted toads
they
or
thought they
something.
had a couple puddles under where their solar panels were originally located, and others thought those were vernal pools.
Vernal
So there
pools.
there was some discussion on that.
The ubiquitous vernal pools.
Yeah.
That seem to be in every subdivision and building project.
Absolutely.
But yes, that was fun. It was a good update for everybody. So now we're going into, Karen, that was Miller High School, town meeting and town election dates.
Yes, which, this is all posted on the website, if anyone is interested, and I've been trying to keep it on the Town of Millis Facebook page as well, to make sure. I
Right.
think everyone in this room knows when these things are, but.
Say it again.
So, May 5th is annual town meeting, it starts at 7:30 over at the high school. And May 12th is our annual town election, and that is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. here at the gym.
Right.
So if you have questions or anything, right on the homepage, you'll see more information. We're going to have copies of the warrant. Right now, there's a draft copy of the warrant on there, but if you have questions, reach out.
Okay, good, all good information. So we're gonna move to our municipal moment, which is a little, I know I'm stealing this from Karen, it's a little lighter than our previous, lighter, get it, lighter, previous municipal moments. We have the Energy Committee here, to which I liaise, and they're going to talk about the electric program explained. Was somebody at our meeting that was asking about that? Was that
At
you?
FinCom, somebody was asking about it at FinCom.
Was it at FinCom?
Yes, it was
Yes.
at FinCom.
Okay, so I
correct.
think this is very timely that you're here.
Yes.
And I'm gonna let you take it away.
Excellent. Craig Gibbons, Chair of the Energy Committee, joined by Robert Weiss, our fearless leader. Great to hear that people are inquiring about the program. What it is a community electrical aggregation program. So this is really an opportunity to buy in bulk, if you want to think of it like that, for residents, for businesses, and take advantage of that collective buying power. You usually get better prices when you do that, so rather than an individual consumer trying to get the best price, we do that as a community. And that is something that Bob represents with us through the third party we're working with to do this bulk buying called Good Energy. So we partner with them to figure out how do we get the best price for residents and businesses through this bulk buying opportunity. The program's been branded, it's called Empower Millis, so I like your pun on light. It is intended to really every few years, and right now we've been in this for 2 cycles. So we did a 3-year cycle based on the price, which was very aggressive, very good for us. So we typically go longer cycles if the price is very good. If the price is a little higher that we're getting as we're going through negotiations, we might do a shorter term. So right now we're in our 2nd cycle of this community electrical aggregation. And it's a 2-year cycle that is active right now, but it will wrap up at the end of this year, when we'll go out for a bidding for another cycle of pricing. And depending, again, whether we get a favorable or not pricing there, we'll figure out the term or the period of time that we would sign on to get that rate. And really what we're talking about, there's 2 parts of your electrical bill. So if you've ever looked at your electrical bill, there's a supply piece And there is and I know Bob is probably pulling up the resource, so I'll explain that in a moment, but there's a supply piece and then there's the delivery piece. So when you get a bill from Eversource, they're still the ones that the electricity is flowing through, wired up to your houses. They provide the infrastructure to get wherever that electricity is coming from into your homes. So that's the delivery piece of it. And the supply piece is really what we're going and trying to get this collective, a better price through collective purchasing or bulk buying through community electrical aggregation. There is a resource, because there's a lot of questions people have asked around that. Well, what are my options, and can I opt in, can I opt out, and how long is this going to be for, and all those sorts of things. There's a website that's been prepared that we want to make sure people have access to. It's Empower Millis. Well, the URL's there. Empower Millis. What is it? Millis.org.
empower.millisma.gov.
Thank you, .gov. So this site will outline a number of things. It outlines that fundamental piece that we're trying to get better prices for our electricity as a community for, again, residents and businesses. It actually, can you scroll up a little bit, Bob? So there are options in there actually on the first page. When you go out here, it explains the whole program. It explains the kinds of options you have, how to opt in, how to opt out, even gives you some visuals around what I was explaining about your electricity bill and where to look for who's doing what in terms of delivering and supplying. But on the first page of the site, what you'll see is we wanted to make sure we could get an aggressive price for community members, but also try to give a mix. We are the Energy Committee, so we were trying to find a mix of opportunities for people to purchase not just a default buying option, but also figure out how they could increase the amount of renewables that come in their electricity supply. And that's really what's outlined on the first page of this. Currently, we have 3 offerings as part of the program. And these are the offerings. These can change with each cycle, but really what it's intended to do is provide something that is comparable to the default pricing and options you would get when you go through Eversource directly. And we call that the Millis Millis Basic product. That's the most comparable to the default price people would pay today. And then we have 2 other products. One is called the Millis Basic product, which is a little lower price. Millis Regular product, which is a little bit more renewable energy, so the price is a little higher. And then also a Millis Plus program, which is even more renewable sourcing of your electricity. These prices that you see on the site are actually locked in for 2 years. So when you become part of the program, which every resident is by default unless they choose to opt out, when you become part of the program, the prices that are there based on the program you're in is what you'll pay for the period of our contract. So right now it's been the last year plus this year, and at the end of this year, you would be opting into new pricing or by default be eligible for new pricing. But whatever price you see there, that's what you pay for the duration of the contract that we have through Good Energy. There have been fluctuations, but I should step back. One of the big things that was a benefit in the first cycle we had, it was a 3-year contract, very aggressive pricing. People net through that 3 years saved quite a bit of money because we had a more aggressive price. This cycle, this past 2 years, we're seeing the prices fluctuate a little bit. The suppliers will change prices twice a year. And so while we're steady state as part of this community electrical aggregation, prices may go up or down, usually towards the end of the year, in the middle of the year when the demand for electricity changes. So sometimes we win in terms of the price that's pushed out to the market, and sometimes we'll be on the other side of that, so we might be paying a little bit more. But the objective is that net over the 2 years, we're getting a better deal. And so right now, I think the prevailing market price is a little lower for Eversource. So right now we're paying a little bit more, but we have been benefiting net over the period of the 2 years. Bob, do you want to share any additional thoughts on that, or do you have additional insights?
Well, right now, it started back in February when Eversource went out to bid, and they came in with a 6-month price. Eversource has to go out as Craig was mentioning, these fluctuations. That's because Eversource goes out every 6 months. They're required by law to go and get a new price. So the last price they got was at 13.2 cents per kilowatt hour for the supply, which is less than ours. So people who are in the program have the opportunity, if they want, they can withdraw from our program and just go with Eversource's costs. However, in July, Eversource has to go out and again And in July is not a good time to go out for electricity because prices will be higher. So if you have withdrawn from Empower Millis and you've gone over to Eversource, make sure you check your price back, your bill in July and August. And if it's, then you can always come back to Empower Millis. We don't charge for separation fee, we don't charge for getting into the program.
Can you do that like
Yes. you
every
can go-
month?
Yes.
In and out, in and out, in and out?
Yes, for Empower Millis. A lot of people have third-party, and this is, these are all, actually all third-party programs. But if you have a third-party supplier now, you should check and make sure that there is no exit fee attached in your contract.
Right, is the, I looked for the opt-out on the website, and it was not easy to find.
Yeah.
Can you make that more prominent,
We don't
that,
make it- Just because you can, Craig, doesn't mean we make it easy for you to find it.
well, that's a complaint that I have heard.
Yeah.
Can we make it as easy, I'm going through this at
As
work.
easy to opt in as opt out?
Yes, because.
What country are you from?
To
Yeah.
find it
So-
and do it, because I
so-
could
I
not
was gonna
find a
say
path,
that.
and I almost
So-
just stopped in the office, because I have
Yeah.
that luxury.
So we do have on the homepage, we do have
It's not,
information
it's
about
not easy
Empower.
to find. It
but
is
it's-
absolutely not easy to
Right,
find
but we
it.
can certainly update that to
I would,
make that more
when the
prominent,
rate
is what I
comes
was gonna say.
down, on Eversource, I would make that more prominent. When the rate goes up, I'd make the opt-in highly prominent, because that's when people are gonna come back.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm pretty literate with this stuff. I was looking to opt out of it because of the rate change
Yeah.
for a brief period, but it was not easy. It took me to,
Did you ever find it?
I never found it. It took me to websites that wouldn't work. So let's try to make that as easy to get out of as to get into, because that's how it was sold.
Yeah, we can,
And it's not.
we can talk to the broker about making it a little bit easier. I think it's.
Not a little bit. It needs to be easier.
So, and I think there's, part of it is.
I've got easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it easy.
Yes.
Part of it is, it's all on this site, but you have to be able to get to this site. And if you don't have the right links to get here, so we could probably do some things
Yeah,
with our
just
Facebook
try
page
to
and our-
go through and follow an opt-out strategy and
Right.
see path
Yeah.
and see if it gets you to where you can opt out.
And people can always call me.
I was trying to avoid that.
Well,
as
but
our-
yeah,
as
it's
our-
actually-
You don't want that, I promise you.
No, there are numbers to call for help.
There are, but it,
through-
it
if you can
hopefully
find the
works.
site that
Yeah.
gives you the number, I
Yeah.
suppose. So we can make that more prominent on the
Yeah, we can
Millis
do that.
homepage.
And I
the
think, first off,
Facebook
I want to start by
pages.
saying, I think it's a great thing, but at this time, it just kind of inverted. The first 3 years were phenomenal on it, the rates were always better. The last
It's like-
half the year, I guess, contract was comparable, no significant. This one is a little significantly inverted, but I have confidence that by July, which I'm no longer going to opt out, because by the time I get it done, I'll just have to opt back in.
It'll take
But,
you that long to get the
It
opt
will,
off.
but let's try to just make sure it's as simple to do either way.
Yeah, and the program itself is, again, by default opt-in, so that people would be
Yeah.
enrolled in it. You can opt out.
I
we
think
can
that's a
make that-
great feature. I'm not
Yeah. It
criticizing
is.
that feature.
We think so, and as people come into town, they are informed, so they're sent notifications, so they can opt in and learn about the program as well. But we can definitely do
Yeah.
better to help people get to the questions.
Right, right. I
they
think
can
every
answer.
6 months, whoever's new to the town gets a mailing. Right.
What's the longest term you can get? You said 3, and now you did 2 because it wasn't as aggressive. What's the longest?
I don't think there is a length on it, but it's whatever you can, it goes out to bid to the companies that supply, like New Constellation, New Energy,
yep.
and Direct Energy. And so we would be limited to what they feel they can commit themselves to. And that's usually 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I do it at work, and we usually get 3 is a typical package, but we just picked up 2 the last go-around also, because things were highly volatile. And the important point, as you said, it doesn't do anything for its supply, bringing it to the house. It's just the generation, the creation of the electricity is the only thing we can,
Yeah. I think the
delivery, I'm sorry, not supply, delivery is what it
Right.
doesn't touch.
the town itself, I think we had a 5-year contract at one point.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's pretty much the most I've ever heard.
Is there more?
I think we've pretty much covered.
Unless there
I
are more
think just-
questions for the
Any questions?
electrical.
Any
Yeah.
questions,
No.
Craig? Anybody? No? Well, that was a
So
good.
I think in general, the reason that you want to consider staying in the program is,
Yeah.
one, usually it's a lower price. Two, it's predictable, so you know what your energy bills are going to be for month to month for a couple of years. And three, our basic Millis regular product has 73% renewable energy, where Eversource is only required to produce 63%. So we have an extra 10% renewable energy, and usually that's less of a cost than if you were going with with Eversource.
Yeah, and the other piece is, if you go out to third party, because you can usually find a cheaper third party, but then you've got penalties and lock-in charges, and I've seen people just hammered on those, where they don't catch the renewal date, and the price goes up
Jumps.
astronomically, and then there is no getting out without paying a penalty.
And there's
So
really
this
no
gives you-
opt-out button.
Yeah, there is no help button there, and they're really hard to get out of.
Yeah.
Ours isn't, it doesn't put you in a punitive situation if prices go up.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, there are often escalations in
yeah,
power purchase agreements as well, so be careful.
yeah.
So if somebody calls you, make sure it's actually Empower
Yeah.
Millis and not somebody else trying to lock
So
you
is
into
there any
something
kind of
different.
program like this for gas?
No,
It's interesting, since it's
Yeah.
Eversource gas.
though we do deal, the town, again, has a procurement program that for the gas that we use. But nothing on this scale for gas as yet.
Yeah, and we have the same thing for work, for gas, but it's, I think electricity is ubiquitous, everybody has it,
Yes,
but
I
not
agree.
everybody has gas.
Okay,
All right.
everybody good? Thank you so much, Craig and Energy Committee. I think you guys do a
They're
great
not
job.
leaving.
They're not
Yeah,
leaving.
one more time.
Oh, you have something in front of us?
Yeah.
We do,
Right.
we do. We actually,
This is a big night for them.
Big night.
yeah, we're putting forth, if it's okay to move in that direction, we're putting forth a Millis zero emission vehicle first policy. And really what we're trying to do in its most simplest form is create a speed bump, pun intended, to our procurement process for vehicles, whether it's purchasing or leasing vehicles, just to stop in that process and say, is there a more energy efficient option, something that produces less harmful emissions, and potentially also has some economic benefits in terms of access to grants or funding to procure that vehicle. And that's a big piece of what's behind it as well. We have been the benefactors of the Green Community Program, which is something the Department of Energy Resources put out years ago. We became part of that in 2015. And so we've been in good standing, been able to reap the benefits of their grant programs and their support. One of the things that they're going through right now is kind of a Green Communities 2.0. And it's a climate, they're referring to that as the Climate Leaders Program, which is what we would be moving towards to remain in good standing with this green community, what has been green communities to date. And one of the first or initial steps is to take a look at the fleet and figure out, are there ways that you can make choices that do become more energy efficient, less harmful in terms of the emissions of those vehicles, and again, take advantage of benefits. And so that's really the catalyst behind this, is to put forth a, hey, let's have a conversation before a vehicle's purchased, and we just by default go with traditional fossil fuels or gasoline vehicles. What other options are available? It's also important to note as we put this forward, we're thinking, of course, the next purchase, but our goal as the Energy Committee and per the statement we put out there a little while back around becoming carbon neutral by 2050, this is one of those steps. So today, the options may not be cost effective, or there may be less options available to us to do this in a responsible and fiscally, both fiscally and from a performance perspective, but we're thinking 10 years out, 15 years, like along the way to that 2050, what other options are out there? And so the intent here is to say, as we're making those purchase decisions today, tomorrow, and years to come, what other options do we have that move us in a better direction? And so hopefully, do you all have a copy of the policy
Yes.
available to you?
Yes.
Excellent. The first, I'll go through it without verbatim, but the first page is really, page and a half is really working through some of the definitions. There are different types of vehicles, whether they're pure electric, electric plus alternative fuels, or even electric plus gasoline. So different types of vehicles we're talking about as we think about zero-emission vehicle policy or even just better options. There are also items in here talking about exemptions. So may not have a good choice to replace a fire truck with an energy-efficient vehicle. So that is something that would be a very legitimate exclusion, but at least having the conversation that today there isn't a good option, so we're going to have to purchase in a traditional manner. And there are also classes of vehicles that are part of how the Department of Energy Resources thinks through this too. So large, heavy-duty vehicles versus lighter-duty vehicles, those sorts of things. And so, and also in the definitions is the concept of fleet, right? So we're talking about any of the vehicles that the town purchases, owns, leases, operates. And so that's what we're referring to as the fleet. So those are the definitions on the first page and a half to just kind of acclimate a little bit to some of the terms we're talking about as we think about these efficient vehicles. I'll pause there for a minute. I know you're probably absorbing a lot, but any initial questions on the definitions before we get to some of the policy itself?
No.
No, we're good.
Okay. The purpose is highlighted here, and it really captures the spirit of those three things. Do we have more energy efficient options? Do we have things that are options that are going to emit less harmful or have less harmful emissions? And are there options that actually have economical benefits in terms of grants and things like that when we go through the procurement process? The way that this proposal is positioned is to really have a funnel, if you want to think of it as choices when you go to procure a vehicle, thinking first and foremost, what's the most efficient option available? And we've classified that as a battery electric vehicle, or you can think of this as a pure electric vehicle. Is there something available that serves the purpose and is fiscally responsible too in terms of the costs of procurement? From there, if there isn't a pure electric, is there something along the hybrid models? So that might be electric and something else. If not, is there an alternative fuel that, again, less emissions, less traditional fossil fuels? And if not, we have that fallback to, okay, then procure the vehicle that is available for the purpose as the last option. So really trying to think through what's available, what, again, might have additional financing or grants or something like that available to you too, that still serves the purpose. We're not asking for people to get something that is going to underperform the job that we're trying to procure the vehicle for, by no means. And really, that's the crux of it there, is to go through that decision tree. There are a number of things listed here as well that just talk through whether you're purchasing or leasing, going through this decision or this thought process, and some of the language around things that potentially be excluded. There are a number of resources that we point to as well to say, if you're not sure what the exclusions might be or what fuel efficiency would be classified as, there are resources that publicly share that material, and those are referenced here. And then as well, we also have, Bob, this is just an example of some of the vehicles on page 3, but, page 4. But we have some examples of some of the vehicles that would currently at least be evaluated for more energy-efficient vehicles. Bob, I'm going to pause just because if there are other finer details you want to bring to the forefront.
No, I think you've pretty much have covered it. Yeah, and this is one of the requirements for us to become, Craig has mentioned, climate leader community, which is what the Green Communities 2.0 really is. And along with the new stretch code, along with the, we already have a committee. So there's 5 different criterias, and this is really one of the criterias, is both this board and the school committee will make a presentation to the school committee coming up very soon and have them sign the same thing. Same thing that we did for the Green Communities program back in 2015, where both boards signed and agreed to look at and to procure vehicles that met certain requirements, certain gas mileage requirements.
So pause there. There's a lot of language in there, but any initial questions as you've been reviewing the policy?
No, it makes sense. It's something we talked about at the capital planning committee too. We have a tool we use to evaluate the purchase of a new vehicle or fire department gear or repair a building. But for when it's a vehicle, if this was included somehow as one of our rating points or factors, it might be helpful in giving extra merit to the electric vehicle. And there's going to be cases, The snow plow is an issue. It's really hard to charge it for 6 or 7 hours after it's been on the road for 6 or 7 hours and let the snow pile up. So there's certain things that don't make sense, as you said, but there's a lot of them that do. So we can look at that as we go through it.
Right, and that is one of the reasons in the first paragraph under the
Yeah.
purpose, it mentions that vehicles that are not commercially available are practical.
Right, right. So I think that it gives a good outline for what we're trying to do, and I think if we build it into the CPC evaluation process, it'll help. It's Capital Planning Committee, not the Community Preservation Committee. So we have too many CPCs.
It's just another piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
right? It's just
Exactly.
another piece of our getting to 0 at 50 of the puzzle. You have to look
Yeah.
at every single thing that's energy consumable,
Yep.
you know? Makes sense.
Yeah, we're hoping it, over time, it just becomes a natural process
know.
of procurement, and so this is exactly a stepping stone to try to make
And
that
as
happen.
technology advances, it's going to get more viable consistently.
God
We're
willing.
hopeful,
So-
we are.
Is there a motion required for signing?
Yes,
I believe
to
it-
adopt the
Yes.
policy.
Are you done? You caught
Yes,
one?
unless there
Oh,
are any questions.
Okay, anything? Erin, you good?
I'm good. It's great.
It's good,
All
it's
right.
good. Jim McKay, did you take a look at this? Is your excavator gonna be plug-in next year, or what?
When feasible. Go
No?
back to that first page.
We have discussed.
Your ladder truck? No?
Every time we talk to Bob, that's all we talk about.
Okay, what do we do?
I move that the board approve the Millis zero-emission vehicle first policy as written.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks, Bob. So next, we have review/approve the fiber optic cable contract. Mr. McKay.
Thank you. So what you have in front of you is a contract that I would ask that you allow the town administrator to sign. This is for Comtrack Corp. This is for the fiber optic cable that's going to connect to the town system. This was not part of, remember Jim Donovan came in a couple of weeks ago with, this is a third leg of it. We thought of this after, when we were starting with the well 3, but it wasn't part of his grant, so this has to be paid out of. And what we're gonna take these amounts out of is out of the grant funding that we received for the ARPA funding. And unfortunately, the $100,000, you're gonna have to prove every cent of it. So I will be back every time we spend a dollar of it.
This is ARPA money, did you say?
Correct. This is federal funding that the grant that we applied for many, many years ago, and we got to carry it over with this project.
Okay,
So this is good for us, and let me give you, finish this, and then I'll give you a quick update on well 3.
Okay. I move that the board approve and authorize the town administrator to enter into and sign an agreement with Comtrack Corp. For installation of a network addition to the SCADA system and security upgrades for well number 3 PFAS plant in an amount not to exceed $27,595.46.
Second?
it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
So-
Next.
So with this, the, part of the contract, they were gonna run a cable, so luckily that there's no extra cost for this to be put in, because this is an add-on as part of the well 3 project. So it comes off the pole. Just a quick update on well 3, we have broken ground, we're well on our way. I don't know if any of you are aware of where it is, it's in back of the Wayland's property, well off of Ridge Street, probably one of the most pristine areas that Millis ever had. Probably one of the only remaining places that you'd ever see a beautiful, beautiful pine tree, now that we just cut down about 200 of them to put this building in. And I'm sure we'll get flack for that, but it was all on town property. You know, the Whalens are great neighbors, they've been very good to us, they've been very good to the contractors in and out, and I want to thank them. It's all very early on, and we've had nothing but good working relationships with them. So we're on our way. We're a couple of months behind schedule, but hopefully this summer we'll catch up. And I'll start sending you just pictures of it, of, you know, where we are and what stage we're
Perfect.
going along into it.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment. I was at a meeting last evening, and Millis was brought up about how progressive they were with PFAS, and I want to just recognize Jim for all the efforts and the town with all the efforts, because it was a room full of very knowledgeable women. It was a Women Network group, and the person who was our presenter happens to be a PhD in all of the clean energies, and she acknowledged, I just thought it should be noted that the efforts that this town has made on PFAS and with the wells and all that Jim has done should be noted.
Duly noted, and yes, it really is all you, Jim, by the way. Jim PFAS McKay. I think we should. We're all spending it. I think we should
You've got
name-
that niche now of knowing PFAS,
I think
though.
we should name a well or something. When he retires. We'll save it.
Keep it a surprise.
We'll save it. Thanks, Jim. Okay, Microsoft licensing renewal.
Yes, thank you,
Contract.
Madam Chair. In your packet, you'll find a memo from James Donovan, our Director of IT, respectfully requesting the approval of the Select Board to enter into a one-year contract with SHI International Corporation for Microsoft Office licensing for the town of Millis. The agreement in your packet would provide the necessary licensing for continued use of Microsoft Office products across all town departments. Total cost for the one-year agreement is $27,720.62, and the funding is available within the current IT budget. So this evening, I'm requesting that the board authorize me to sign the renewal contract with SHI on the board's behalf.
I move that the board approve and authorize the town administrator to sign a one-year renewal contract with SHI International Corp. For Microsoft Office licensing for the town of Millis for an amount not to exceed $27,720.62.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Mike, so we're going to open the warrant in a minute, right?
Yes.
So you sent, that's not in this package. You sent that later. 'cause
I
pushed it to-
sent some information to you
No,
Yes,
Friday.
keep going.
Some yesterday and some today.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
So you've been getting a lot of information. So yes, I would recommend the board take a vote to open the warrant.
I move that the board open the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair, just following up from your meeting of last week, I just want to note some recommended changes to the warrant since you met last Monday. Primarily two articles primarily. The first, Article 12, this is the article that relates to the request for a special act for to allow certain waivers for certain eligible senior citizens. After discussions with various town officials and with town council, I am recommending some changes to Article 12. I think I did send out information to the board, I think it was yesterday in regards to this. So the first item has to do with the timeliness of the article. We wanted to make sure that the article as written would be able to be utilized as part of the middle high school building project. So in section 1, we did change the word, which it will now say which borrowing is undertaken instead of which is approved, which means that as long as the board and the treasurer take out the bonds for the project subsequent to the special act being approved by the legislature, then that project would be eligible as part of the waiver program. So that's the first recommended change. The second has to do with financial assets, and that's in section 2 of the article. In that first paragraph, midway through the paragraph, town council has recommended adding the words,
Consistent with?
I'm sorry?
Consistent with?
Yeah, well, I'll just read section 2 and then talk about the added section. So section 2 says the Board of Assessors may deny an application if it finds that the applicant has excessive assets that place the applicant outside of the intended recipients of the senior exemption established pursuant to this act. And this is the new section. Said determination to be consistent with asset limitations imposed by the Commonwealth for affordable housing eligibility for persons 55 years or older. So that sets a clearer bar. And in my discussions with the principal assessor and the finance director, they're much more comfortable with some more clear, determined language, so that it's not left to more subjective decisions by the assessors.
Do you want him to wait, or can he just ask
Let me
one?
just finish one more, and
One
then,
more,
and then section 3, it's a short section, says the total amount exempted by this act shall be allocated proportionally within the tax levy on all other taxpayers. Before it said on all residential taxpayers, so this would expand that to all taxpayers in the
Right.
community.
Would
So
you-
the proportional redistribution of the cost would be to all of the taxpayers in the community. So those are the 3 changes from the article you saw last week, and that I put before you for your consideration and discussion tonight.
Great. Mr. Loa.
Greetings, everybody. John Lohr, 247 Pleasant Street. We're on the same page in terms of some of the updates that you made, so that answers a few things. In no particular order, just going back to some of those changes and maybe a couple add-ons, and I'll kind of follow up my own questions. So on Article 12, in the first paragraph, in the first sentence, on the third line down, it says senior citizens property exemption for school building projects. It's plural. So this would be a change for going forward for any school projects, not necessarily or including the school building project.
It's my understanding through
Please
my.
clarify, yeah.
Yeah, through my discussions with town council, that'd be through any school project that requires a debt exclusion. And from the date that this is approved by the legislature going forward.
Right.
So it would not impact the Clyde Brown project.
Correct.
'cause that's
All
in-
other
that's
debt
in the past.
exclusions.
So this would just be for school projects that require debt exclusions.
So
So,
nothing on operational side.
correct. All
correct.
debt exclusion, correct.
just-
So or hypothetically, if the school building passes in the fall, and then there's other projects down the road, anyone who's still alive could possibly qualify for further tax exemption.
Yes. Yes, and this
Hypothetically.
exemption, individuals would have to apply on a yearly basis. They have
Correct.
to apply every year for the exemption.
So in 50
So it's-
years, if we had to do the Clyde Brown over again or make a
Yeah.
renovation.
Right,
So this is
unless
more-
there was
this
a
is-
change in statute,
Yeah.
then that would continue in force and effect.
So this is really a change in senior exemption, tax exemptions
For
going
school
forward, not
projects.
necessarily the school building project.
For school
For school
debt,
building
for school building
Yes.
debt-funded projects.
It's not
Yeah.
limited to this one.
Correct,
Right.
that's my point, thank you for
Right,
clarifying. It's
right.
not just for this one school building project going on now.
Right, so if there's another debt exclusion for a school
For the
project,
school.
say 25 years down the road for,
Yep.
whatever reason, then unless this act were to change in the meantime, then that would also apply to that future project.
I
Yep.
think that as a policy decision, this would not, this particular one, the need or what we feel, the purpose wouldn't change moving forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
don't
I agree.
think- I don't think
I
things are
agree,
gonna get.
it helps you now and it helps in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess the way I. No.
No.
I guess what I'm looking at is future tax liability exposure for the other taxpayers. It's probably minimal, but it's something that came across my mind. So that clears up that, I appreciate that. So under the section 2 regarding the excessive assets, in my quick reading today, the Mass Circuit, what's the proper term, the circuit breaker?
Circuit breaker tax credit?
Yeah, the circuit breaker credit, it has a $250,000 numerical value for excessive assets.
Yes, not including someone's home.
Correct.
Or their protected retirement savings, I believe, which is certain IRAs and certain. other
Retirement
things.
accounts.
Yes.
So I get the verbiage you're stating here, but for residents trying to understand what excessive assets are, they might have to do some research on their own versus just stating what the guidelines are. Does it make sense to add just the guidelines?
Well, we could, as a point of information, I wouldn't recommend putting it in the act because that does change.
Yep.
But we could certainly put something, information together to show what it is currently,
That's fine.
what the current
Yeah,
thresholds are.
I follow you. I think it just, there's still unanswered questions in the audience standpoint.
Yeah, so basically 250,000 is excessive today.
Yeah.
But that excludes home and protected retirement assets, however those are defined.
Yep, exactly. Got it. Okay, and I appreciate the section 3 change. I noticed that on all other taxpayers versus the first, or the latest rendition that was on the draft, so that's good there. Couple other further questions, if I may.
You may.
All right. So, going down the list here under section 2, so single applicant age 65 or older at the close of the previous year, I get by persons either of whom is age 65 or older at the close of the previous year, and the joint applicant is 60 years of age older. So if you're a spouse, a married couple, and you are 65 and have a spouse that's younger than 5 years, you're getting excluded?
Until your spouse turns 60, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. I don't know how many spouses are out there like that, just wanted to clarify. Could you explain, actually, section 4? It says a person who speaks to qualify for the exemption under section 1 shall before the deadline. Do we know when that deadline is?
We thought August 3rd.
Yeah, I believe the principal assessor mentioned the other day it was in August.
It had to be August 30th.
Yeah, there were certain annual dates that they had to meet, so I believe that's in August.
Okay. And then, could you,
Which are different, though, than the rest of the breaks. So it's going to be very confusing for people.
Oh, those are tax breaks, quarterly tax breaks.
yeah, so, and then section 5, could you just explain, no exemption shall be granted under the act until the Department of Revenue certifies? Is that certifying the tax returns of residents?
I believe that certifies our tax rate.
Tax rate.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
so-
sorry, the town tax rate?
Yes.
Gotcha, okay.
And that's the non-exempt portion of the tax rate, I would imagine, because the exempt portion is certified as a total dollar amount, but then it'll, based on this, would be redivided per person.
Okay,
So I guess it is the whole tax rate, but the exempt portion would be redistributed based on those who apply.
Right, so I think the point there is that even if the assessors determine that your application makes you eligible, it's not official until the state approves that tax rate and allows the
Yeah.
town to send out the bills.
correct. So talking to Teresa briefly today in the assessor's office, the current tax returns are from 2022. Sorry, I'm jumping from tax returns from tax rates. So it would be whatever the last completed tax returns are in terms of qualifying for the
Yeah,
circuit
it would
breaker.
be the last ones that certified returns to them that are verifiable.
Yeah.
That they would use, that's correct.
Yeah. Couple more questions? I'm not doing my regular work, so I got to get this out. So, going under these guidelines and assuming that you qualify for your circuit breaker, I imagine any tax filer is going through, a CPA or an accountant or on their own is going to go through line 44 on Form 1 of the Mass Tax Return. So they're going to know, I know, right? So they're going to know whether or not they qualify for that first check, right? Then the question becomes, how many Millis residents are age 65 or above, right?
Right, well, there's a series of boxes that every taxpayer would have to check off to be able to qualify for this. So as you see the different qualifications, I mean, we can certainly go and look.
Yeah,
But again, being age 65 or older is one out of about 7 or 8 qualifiers. So,
Correct.
Yes. And in speaking with the principal assessor, it's very hard to determine exactly how many people will qualify.
correct.
She knows that, there's an upper limit.
Yeah.
But to know how many below that would actually qualify based on all these factors.
Yep.
She wouldn't have all that information until people decided they were gonna apply and then let other information available to them, which they don't have access to currently.
Right. So just to write on that, so talking with her, as of 2022, there was 258 taxpayers that were
Correct.
eligible for the senior circuit breaker. So of that amount, then the question is
How
who's
many have lived
65?
here 10
She,
years? How many-
she estimated, and she doesn't know the 10-year mark,
Right.
but she estimated she would be surprised if more than 100 people would
Qualified.
meet all the qualifications, and then all those people would have to apply.
Correct.
So as
Correct.
far as, from the basis, as far as determining what the impact may be to all the other taxpayers, that's something we can use as an estimate
Yeah,
by maybe running some examples.
yep,
As, what type of percent increase, like just throwing a number out there, if the taxpayer had a $500 impact from the project, and 3% of the voters in town, of the taxpayers in town qualified, which I would say would be probably a high number, then you would add, it'd be another $15. So
Yep.
instead of 500, it'd be $515
Yep.
would be to that taxpayer.
correct. No, I follow you. And just to round out the check, your home value has to be under 1.1 million roughly, and your AGI has to be below 72K single, 109 merit filing joint.
And the cost of your property tax bill plus half of your, I
Water,
believe,
sewer,
water and
water.
sewer has to be more than 10% of
10%.
your income.
Right,
Perfect.
right.
Yeah,
Well, I'm finished.
And then, Madam Chair, I was gonna say, and also, won't it change depending on what we're borrowing for the project?
Well, the amount,
Yeah,
the actual
Amount is
amount.
gonna
Yeah, the
be,
amount.
so
We can't give an
There's
exact
no way to give a
point.
real,
Exact
that's what I'm
number,
saying, so
yeah.
there's, yeah, sorry.
so, right, so, just to round that thought out, so hypothetically, if, and again, these are all assumptions. So if, Millis finances through debt exclusion 90 million and the average tax increase is $800, I've heard those numbers. This would be an additional, depending on how many of the 258 show up and how you spread that
This would-
liability out.
Roughly $25.
Small dollars,
Yes.
right, right.
Yes.
Just wanted to go through the process there. So the question then, I understand that this is for seniors, but now we're starting to decide who qualifies from a financial burden standpoint. So do we have any thoughts along single parents, disabled folks, people that are struggling
This-
outside of age 65
can
and
I-
qualifying for
Yeah.
circuit breaker?
Just to back up a little bit on
Yeah.
the genesis of the proposal in the first place, there is one other community that has a similar special act that's been approved, and that is the town of Hopkinton. And this language is very similar to Hopkinton's language.
Yes,
We were, you know, I wanted to confirm 100% that this was an approved special act, because, you know, this was a somewhat unusual act to be passed. And really, in looking at it, I think the goal, and I'll defer to the members of the board, as far as, really the goal here is to really, as far as our long-term residents, most vulnerable, most likely to be really negatively impacted by a debt exclusion if their finances are very tight.
Yeah.
That was the number one goal. And number two is understanding that any major shift in this special act request has a high likelihood of failure, because, again, we'd be stepping into territory that no other town has stepped in before. If we
Yeah.
try to expand this to all other, you know.
Totally, yeah.
And really, most of the tax breaks or tax deductions for property taxes that the state has already approved have to do with seniors and veterans mostly. You know, and somewhat lesser degree the disabled.
Yeah.
So this really falls in line with the senior aspect of that. So really, we're you know, looking to follow, and because we have a time frame issue too, as far as this upcoming project is
Yep,
concerned.
understood.
So if we were to expand this, if the board were to decide to expand this a lot more, it would have a much more likelihood of failure at the state, and then it really couldn't be enacted for this upcoming project. So I think that was part of the thought process here.
Right.
And understanding that there are other taxpayers that, you know, maybe a young couple who, or maybe they have other financial pressures, and I think most taxpayers at times in their
normal.
life have gone through that.
Yep.
That would be a difficult thing to encapsulate in something like this. But, I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah, and I guess my point is to demonstrate, without knowing the various numbers, because of all the variables, totally get it, is what are the other taxpayers going to be burdened with, even if it's $25 or $15? The average person can probably cover that. The question is, would that snowball over time where you're getting 15 with another school debt exclusion, which would probably not be for a while?
Yeah, the school debt exclusion should go down over time as more houses are built.
Yeah,
Because you're spreading that same, call it, same 1 point, or 100, whatever, 7,000, $1 million over more homes.
yep,
So that's just gonna reduce the burden on
The
each
burden,
home. So
yeah.
it will be going down over time. And then, we're not gonna need to do another major debt exclusion for a school in any of these seniors' lifetimes, my lifetime.
Correct.
Or maybe.
correct.
Maybe yours,
correct,
John.
Correct. I got
Aaron and you are the two best shots.
I got
at seeing
some
another debt
special water on my property
That's
that,
pretty good, though. I
Yeah.
don't know. I wouldn't take that back.
so, yeah,
So, yeah, so our initial goal was to try to do this for the seniors, because the argument is that we're driving the longtime homeowners out of town because they can't afford the debt increases.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to reward seniors who moved in here a year ago and bought a $1.3 million house, and they're over 65. That's not the group we're catering to.
Right.
We're trying to get the people like my mother-in-law who bought a house for
I've been here more than 10 years.
$60,000, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
not
get it, I
$60,000.
get it. I just
Yeah,
think, totally get it, totally, if we can look for tax exemptions for seniors, that's all good. You know, in the other pool where the taxpayers are absorbing that tax increase, it's just, that would be good if, I think questions will come up at town meeting about some of the guidelines versus just the general guidelines that are in it.
And before the word gets out that I'm doing this to benefit my mother.
Yes.
She did pass away a
Correct.
few years ago, and just using her as the
Correct.
example of
Yes.
somebody who bought a house
And we
for
can't
less
use-
than my car.
Because I can see the headlines on Facebook now.
Yeah, so her house
Yeah.
cost less than my car, and now it's worth a
More than
lot.
what-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So all good, just wanted a clarification.
Yeah,
Good
and
questions.
I'd like your clarification, I think it's great. I just did want to say, though, that my only concern is because of the August deadline for this, there are other my point was there are other deadlines for some of the tax exempt for the seniors that they take. So I think it's really important that they know that there are two this is not the same deadline as for the all the other tax exempt. And that was in our meeting yesterday, that was a concern that the assessor had because of the differentials in dates, and it'll be very confusing for people. So if this should go through, I really think that it's imperative that they know, that somehow they're
Yes, I mean,
informed.
should this be approved by the voters and a special act approved by the legislature, we will certainly work with the assessor's office to try to advertise those
Right.
dates
And
as widely
possibly
as
with the
possible.
senior,
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
our
council
senior
on Aging.
director as
Oh,
well.
yes. Yep.
'cause
And
that
and
would-
the other
yeah.
advantage is this, if this passes, and if the school passes in November, we still have 2 to 3 years before bonding to notify people. So
Right.
you've got, it's not like this passes now and in August you have to apply.
Right.
You've got 3 years, 4 years.
I understand, I just wanted
All
that,
right.
because that is key.
Okay, thank you. John?
And last future question, that doesn't need to be talked about now, but we'll bring it up anyway. If this process can be used through technology and forms are filled out by the taxpayer themselves instead of the assessor's office, instead of doing it paper, it might help the burden of the assessor's office.
Well,
Food
we
for
are,
thought.
we are working on that.
Food for
thought.
Yes,
Agreed.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
John.
thank you.
Are there any
Okay.
other questions on that article?
God, I hope not.
There can't be unless Aaron has one.
Aaron?
I've got nothing to say.
The next article I wanted to touch upon, Madam Chair, is Article 13, which has to do with the method of appointment of the town clerk and as the article states, from elected to appointed. I did have a number of conversations with town council last week, as well as with the chair, about the article and the different options and approaches. We did have a concern about having to wait over a full year for a special act to come into being. And we did have some further discussions about some other options here. And the other option that is currently in the draft before you is for the town to actually vote to change the town clerk position from elected to appointed by directly making a change in the home rule charter, and then having it approved at the ballot. As you know, you already have a ballot question on the election. Taking this route, it would require a 2/3 vote of the town meeting and then a majority vote at the ballot. And this follows the process in the town charter to appropriately change this type of provision. And this would allow a change, if voted by the citizens, to occur within 30 days following the ballot election.
Okay, so it's a 2/3 vote where?
At town meeting.
Town meeting.
And then a majority
Majority
vote at the ballot.
At the ballot,
Okay.
at the town
Well,
election.
This charter change, it's set by a majority vote of the whole town at a regular or special election.
Yes.
Election.
Which
of-
is,
Oh, of town
yeah,
office, when I saw
Yeah.
election, that's confusing.
that's legal speak.
Okay, yes, okay, that's,
So really, that's up for the board to determine if you're comfortable with that approach. I think it does have its advantages. I mean, it does require a 2/3, so certainly, if it's approved at town meeting, it would be an overwhelming majority would need to approve it, and then it would need to get the support of the majority of the voters at the election on May 12th.
And I think this is the way our charter reads, and I think this is the right way to go for changing
Yes.
important positions. I don't think you want to slide it through quickly. There's a process, we
Yes.
should follow that process.
and you don't have to wait a year and a half or 2 or 6 for the legislature
Right.
to, you know.
There's a lot of
Get the
uncertainty
pen
there
out.
and a lot of work and lobbying that has to take place to get that through,
Yes.
so.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Great, and the last item, Madam Chair, I think is rather minor,
Yep.
but in Article 15, we have the list of all the parcels that we're looking to have reclassified from general municipal purposes to disposition by the Select Board. There was one parcel that, in speaking with Mr. Weiss, has some problems as far as being able to sell it. So he's asking, at least for now, to remove that one item from this list.
Wait a minute, I'm not listening to you. I
This
don't
is
know.
Article 15.
It's properties.
Right, I'm going back here.
Oh.
Was the second, on Article 13, wasn't there another piece that we did to change something else, or is that all in 13? Remember there was another little piece to,
13, we basically, yeah, no, it's included in there.
it is?
All that language is new. So that entire article is
But you know
new,
what
and that's
I'm
been
talking
reviewed, yes,
about?
I do,
The second?
yes.
Okay.
And town council has reviewed and approved it and made the additional
Great.
tweak to that language.
All right, now let's go
That,
back.
that is, but that's the section that says, and by replacing section 4-2C with the following reserved. That meets, there was an issue
Great.
that had to be adjusted.
Yep, I'm on
Um,
it. Okay, now what piece did we pull out?
On Article 15,
Yep.
it's just one parcel,
Which one?
Brandywine Terrace. It's a large landlocked
I know
parcel.
what it is.
Yeah.
The big piece.
Yeah, it is a big piece, but there is some concerns with it. And so, I mean, we've got,
It's in the middle, isn't it in the middle of
it's-
subdivision?
it is, it's the
Yeah.
very middle of subdivision, and there's some concerns
Yeah.
about it, and we think we need some more study on
Yeah,
it.
me too. I didn't think
Uh,
it got in there.
Yeah,
I'm
so,
glad you
so
pulled
it's
it
been, it's been removed. I think it was the only parcel in there that was more than an acre.
out. Very good.
But that's been removed. So,
Very good.
as far as the annual town meeting warrant, I believe that's all the changes. So if the board would accept those changes, you could vote to accept those, vote to close the warrant, vote to approve the warrant, and and then sign the warrant before you leave this evening.
Okay. I know that these two zoning, right? There's two zonings in here. I know that they're gonna be talked about, the planning board is going, I know there was some questions. Some people had some questions. So I know that the planning board is going to the finance committee tomorrow night to explain these two zoning articles.
Yes, and actually, there's one more thing. I would note
That's a good
that,
thing.
I would note, I did speak with Camille earlier today, and she did provide me with a map that will be in the warrant. So it's the map as provided by the planning board of
Okay.
of the
This is going to
FEMA
look
maps.
spectacular in grayscale. Just let you know.
And we will have a giant blow-up of this map
Okay.
outside the town meeting when people come in so they can study it on the way in. And it'll be online as well. It'll probably be easier to see online.
I know what's in
I know, it's difficult unless you have a 3x5 map.
Okay.
So there, any other questions on the
I don't
warrant?
think so. Do we have
No, I
any-
don't think so.
We good?
Okay, I move that the board close the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I move that the board formally approve and sign the May 5th, 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great, thank you. Just a couple other things, Madam Chair, under that line item. I just want to touch base with in that, on the budget, since your meeting of last week, you had requested or we had talked about the change to the health insurance, splitting that out. That's
Yeah.
been split out. Also, there was one other issue, and that had come up, that was just an oversight, and that had to do with the town clerk's election budget.
Oh, right.
There was 15,000 that we needed to adjust back into that budget, and to account for that, we've reduced two other accounts slightly. I think the IT budget and the town buildings budget
Okay.
and that is all the changes, I believe, to the budget since your last meeting. So probably just want to, if the board is okay with that, because you did vote to
Yeah.
approve the budget last week.
Yeah.
Just to,
Reapprove it?
signify that you approve it, so then when I meet with the finance committee tomorrow night, I can confirm that with them.
Does this budget show the school benefits split out? I don't believe that it does, but.
All right, I'll go back and check with Jody
But
on
I
whether
understand,
it's,
you provided those numbers to us.
We do have the
And
breakdown,
once
the
those are
separate
incorporated,
breakdown.
that's what
Yeah.
we want to do.
Okay, did you
Yep.
think it was in this, Mike?
I'll check with her tomorrow to confirm that it's accounted for in here.
I only see like a 6% increase in expenses, 5.87% overall, it looks like. So it doesn't appear to be, and I thought it was gonna be on its own.
Yeah, so
standalone line.
I'll talk to her tomorrow, about, just adding a line in there to
Okay.
clarify that.
Yeah, I think the
um,
bottom line we agree with, and I think
Yeah.
if that change is incorporated, we agree with it.
So am I still making a motion to reapprove this?
Um,
It's not showing what we wanted.
If it's not showing
Just
the-
to, I would say to accept the budget as as described tonight.
described.
Okay, I move that we accept the budget as described.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great, thank you. And I did send the board an email with all the motions. It's like 30-some-odd pages long. I didn't
Yep.
print out hard copies, but I'd be happy to when you want them. I will be forwarding those to the Finance Committee tomorrow morning, so they'll have their motions for their meeting tomorrow night. You also have received the budgets for the sewer, water, and stormwater. The Finance Committee will get those tomorrow morning. I believe that is it, Madam Chair.
Okay.
No, we have to,
What?
we have to approve and sign the town election warrant. We,
Oh, I'm sorry, that was it for the
Oh,
annual town
okay.
meeting
Yeah, I
warrant.
was gonna
Yes,
say
yes,
that.
not for the meeting.
So do we vote now to approve and sign the warrant?
The election warrant.
The election warrant, you already.
Yeah.
approved that
Election, we
other
already
one.
did the other.
okay.
What do you got?
I move that the board approve and sign the May 12th, 2025 town election warrant.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Great, thank you.
Now, Madam Chair, we have something to take a bit out of order. Prior to your liaisons, we thought perhaps we should have a little celebration
Yeah.
for somebody who's turning a little, who has a very big birthday.
special
Can't say what
birthday.
the special birthday
I don't
is.
care.
Here we go, everybody gets a horn. Everyone gets a horn.
Okay, I'm going to announce it myself, yes, on Thursday of this week.
More importantly, everyone gets a hat.
Give this to Aaron.
Put your
Aaron
hat,
the horn.
put your hat
Aaron,
on.
you get a horn, Aaron.
Everyone
All
put
right.
their hat on. This is
Okay.
the party.
All right,
We do
all
have a
right.
piece of
Okay.
cake for you, but
How do I look?
we won't
Great.
actually, we will spare everybody, we will not sing to you because it's a little, we're a little hoarse. There you go.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Yes,
birthday.
thank you so much. Yes, I am turning the big 7-0 on Thursday.
Congratulations.
7-0.
Congratulations.
Feeling
Congratulations.
every zero of it.
Hats off now.
Anywho, thanks, Karen. for
I thought you would
showing up.
appreciate that. I thought
Yes.
maybe we should just make sure that it didn't go by unnoticed.
Yes, yes,
but-
yes.
I will have a birthday, and if you do this, we will be looking for some changes in the structure of town
Well,
office.
this is a big one, and I know Ellen likes to, I was looking for funny birthday glasses. I wasn't able to
So
find those, so.
my birthday present is gonna be absolutely crushing you on the liaison.
There we
department,
go.
And I'm
There you
gonna
go.
start with it, right?
How many do you have?
5.
Oh,
It's a record.
okay.
Yeah.
I should have
Go ahead.
7, one for each decade. I'll make a couple of them.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll
I don't think I have
proscribe
anything.
them. Tomorrow night is, I get the whole week. Tomorrow night's
right.
the school
Birthday
building
week.
committee
Yeah.
and the permanent building committee. Add to my 5, that's 7.
There you go,
So we have
congratulations.
the Charles River Pollution Control last Thursday, which they really didn't do anything, so there's nothing to report. We had
I'm
the
almost done
Verizon
counting them.
negotiation,
Oh.
right, Mike?
Yes,
Exciting.
yes.
Verizon negotiation, energy, tonight, prior to this meeting. I went to finance with you. I know it doesn't really
Yeah.
count, but I'm adding it. And I went to the planning board the other night. It's not really a liaison, but listen, I'm 70. I can add. I can add all of it. What do you got?
FinCom with you.
I actually have 2.
Holy moly, what do you
I
got?
missed one because of an event that I had at work I had to go to.
So Ellen, you came to most
Oh,
of
wait a
one of
minute.
mine.
I got another one. We did the.
Local
beautification.
Emergency Planning Committee.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh,
I
and Millis
crashed that
Beautification
one.
Day. Yeah, you
Yes,
crashed
she
it.
I
did. Crash
totally
it.
crashed that.
Yep.
And what about, the cleanup during the
That's
blizzard
not a
on
liaison.
Beautification Day,
Saturday?
yes.
It counts.
Ellen took care of the hedges,
I
like
did.
right out
Did you
front.
notice the hedges?
Yeah, they look very nice.
Me
Yeah.
and, Bob?
Bill Lawson.
You thought it was Bill and it's really.
No, it's Bill.
Bill Lawson, who, I have to say this, moved to
Medway.
Medway, but comes here because he loves Millis. He's on the Lions Club and helped me with the beautification. He's
Nice.
80 years old.
Ah,
I'm gonna
love
be
him.
70, and the two of us are out there breaking our backs
God,
in the
that's
blizzard of 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ellen, you did do the Economic Development Bid meeting as well. The BID meeting that we went to with Bob for the Business Improvement District.
I think that was.
And we had a
earlier.
meeting.
Because we talked about that the last meeting.
No, but we had a small meeting, remember you
Ellen,
called in with
right,
Nicole,
right.
right?
and get
Oh
out
my
her
God, it's
pathetic
like a-
little list of.
Yes, you did, you were there.
Living.
You're getting older.
Am I getting older? Thanks.
So I went to a local emergency planning meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we learned about MEMA and a lot of acronyms that I can't even pull out of my hat at the moment. But yeah, we're going to have some more local emergency planning meetings with what they call tabletop exercises to, you know, kind of work through any of our emergency plans. Went to cemetery committee,
Oh, my God.
which is my favorite.
It is your favorite.
It is my favorite. Talked about general beautification of the cemetery, you know, from bushes in certain sections to, you know, fixing a fence, talking about maybe someday getting some interactive software that you could put in somebody's name and locate a plot, which would be really cool to be able to do.
I like the way she's talking about this on my 70th. It's a little segue. It's a little subtle segue. But thank you, Erin.
Anytime. The timing just happened to work out. So it was a good meeting, though.
Good.
Yep. All right, we
What
have
else
more.
have we got?
We have
Draft
to
minutes, please.
approve minutes.
Okay, what do you got?
These are, thank you to Sam from the majority.
Yep.
Well, one of them are older, it's from your town meeting in the fall.
I
a
saw
little
that.
delayed.
Yeah, so I
Wait a
did,
minute, don't we have the water sewer commitment first?
no, we don't have that
No,
this
don't
time.
have
no, we don't
one.
have
It's
one.
kind of a
I'll be the
placeholder,
next
but-
meeting, I think.
Placeholder,
Yeah.
okay.
So there was one small edit I sent along for the March.
Usually reads them.
I know, it's just,
You're
But I don't
supposed
catch
to
anything.
read them.
I read them, but I can't notice that something's wrong.
All right, so anyway, I move that the board approve the draft meeting minutes for November 19th, 2024, February 24th, 2025, and March 17th, 2025, as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
All those in favor?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you, everybody.
happy birthday.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
Thank you so much, Karen.
You're welcome.